to mute your microphone if you are not speaking, and you can post questions or raise your hand in case you can post the questions in the chat or raise your hand in case you have any questions. Then like Ivana and myself will keep an eye out. So we will circulate the PowerPoint presentation after the meeting. So in case there is anything you want to go back and see, you can do it then. We have 5 project presentations today. Each of them will be 7 to 8 minutes. Yes, I'll give you a few more details about that later. Frederik is in control of the presentation. So when you need to change the slides, you just give him a hint and then he'll move on to the next slides. We do have a bit of a full program, so just ask you to try to keep the time for the presentations. We are few too many people here today to make a tour of the table, but we do invite you to briefly present yourself in the chat. So just put your name in, which institution you're representing, and also which country or region you are representing today. Then we can have an idea of who is here today. So moving on to the agenda. So we have split the meeting into 2 sessions. I'll chair the first one, Ivana will chair the second one. First session is dedicated to project presentations. So what we'll do is we'll have 2 presentations and then a joint Q&A session. So first we'll hear from ResBerry, then Scoop, and then we have a Q&A where you can ask questions or give comments to either of the projects, and then we'll do the same for the next 2. Then we have a short break. And in session 2, we have a 5th project presentation, and then we have a Horizon Europe exchange workshop where we will hear from Gabriella about AKIS, and Ivana will tell us more about organic research in Horizon Europe partnerships. Before we start with the project presentations, I would like to pass the microphone to Ivana, who will just briefly introduce the Core Organic Co-Fund 3rd call, which the projects are funded under. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mine. We can start with the presentation. So, Core Organic 3rd call was launched under the Core Organic Co-Fund, and that I think most of you maybe associate yourself with that period. That was from 2016 until the last year when we had the final event in Brussels. Fortunately, we were able to continue the Core Organic network, even though formal ERANET mechanism has not been continued by the European Commission. So now the Core Organic continuation is called Core Organic Pleiades. Pleiades is a star constellation. So you see a little cluster of 7 stars that were used by the farmers and navigators in the sea in the old times. So we hope that we can navigate through the next period of time in this context. So Core Organic Pleiades is a network of 42 partners, again, combination of funding institutions and stakeholder partners that work on research in organic food and farming on transnational level. Maybe just to mention that Core Organic had started in 2004, and since there we had launched 8 transnational calls with the 62 research projects. So 5 projects that we have here belong to this number of 62. So these are the 5 last projects that we launched. If we can see the next slide, please. This is just on the map to see how the Core Organic Pleiades look like. And this is also the link for Core Organic Pleiades network. It's a quite nice spread, not only within the European Union, but also beyond the European Union. And we hope that maybe colleagues from countries that are not currently involved will also manage to join us. Thank you. You can see the next slide. More specifically about the call, we had 13 funding partners. It was a smaller, relatively smaller call with 5 million euro. And it was only one-step procedure because that was what we could allow as a time in the co-fund. And you can see the countries that were participating in the call, including our Mediterranean partners from Morocco and Algeria that were not full members of the core organic, but they joined as a full members of the call board. Thank you. You can see the next slide. The scope of the call was, or the theme of the call was organic farming systems for improved mixed plant and animal production. This was an attempt from core organic to start moving research more into system thinking dimension. And I think here my colleague Malene Jacobsen, Marijte Studnitz, that are from the call secretariat at that time, also Elena Capolino, Serenella Puliga from, it was a joint secretariat. We really try together with the funders to offer something new to the researchers. So not have classical teams only on feed, only on animal production, but also plant production, but try to think of mixed systems. You will see how far we have got with the 5 presentations that are to follow. But this was the idea behind it, also with the different Green Deal targets that we have behind us, paving the path for organic until 2030 and visualizing it as a 25% of EU agricultural land under organic farming. Thank you. You can see the next slide. These were the 3 teams that we had. So still somehow they were reflecting the animal farming systems, crop production, and feed, but we tried to put them into more contextualized research context. And it was for the first time that we actually moved from saying livestock to animal farming. It was, I think, also to give certain new values that organic farming has. So moving from seeing livestock as a livestock, but seeing as a more system thinking, so animal farming systems. And I think we have a few more slides. We can see the next. This was the call budget. You can see it was around 5 million. I think here maybe is interesting to see per country what was the spread, and also that some countries didn't have allocation of funding to all 3 subjects, but maybe to only some of them. Nevertheless, it was a very good cooperation possibility, and we're very pleased with the outcome of 5 projects. And I think the last slide is exactly presenting the selected projects per subtopic. You can see that in the second subtopic on resilient crop production system, we have a majority of our colleagues, and unfortunately under the feed we didn't select any projects, and the animal system is presented only by roam-free project. So this is from my side. I hand over back to Mine as a chair, and I wish you a pleasant pleasant event with the core organic, because we don't have that many opportunities to physically to meet, but I hope that this will be a good dissemination possibility, having also our research colleagues from the previous calls. So thank you from my side.
Thank you, Ivana, so much for this background on the call. I think we just want to move on to hearing the project presentations. Yeah, thank you. So I would like to welcome Annette Reinecke, who will tell us a bit more about ResBerry.
Yeah, so good morning, everybody from Germany. My name is Annette Reinecke. I'm based in Geisenheim University, and I'm the coordinator of the ResBerry project, which I will present with the next few slides. So I'm just saying continue, or because, yeah, okay, so if we can move over to the next slide, please. Yeah, So ResBerry is an acronym for Resilient Organic Berry Cropping Systems through Enhanced Biodiversity and Innovative Management Strategies. So you just get with this picture a first glimpse of one of our partners, a very big cooperative in Romania producing strawberries and raspberries mainly. And we just implement one of our management strategies in this partner. But if we move to the next slide, I will first introduce the partners. So we are 8 partners from 5 different countries. Geisenheim University, as I mentioned, is the coordinator in Germany. And then we have the Institute for Food and Environmental Research based in Northern Germany as the second partner from Germany. And we have a partner from the University of Agronomic Sciences and Veterinary Medicine in Bucharest in Romania, the University of Copenhagen in Denmark, and 2 universities or School of Agriculture in Morocco. So this was mentioned previously that Morocco is also a partner in this project. We have the Research Institute of Horticulture in Poland, and then a cooperative where you just saw this picture in Romania, which is immediately using one of or some of our strategies in the production of organic berries. So we started in November 21 and will continue until end of December in 24. So if we just continue, please. Yeah. So the overall aim of our ResBerry project is to provide growers with the necessary knowledge and also demonstrate the effectiveness of tools to enhance above and below ground diversity in organic berry orchards. And this is with a major aim to increase the resilience of berries against pests and diseases, but also against climate change stress, and to overall have a more resilient production system. And to achieve this aim, we have actually 4 work packages. So there are a couple of more work packages when it comes to dissemination and communication, but we have 4 experimental work packages. The first one is on including companion plants for habitat management. I will come to that with the first results in the next slides. The second one deals with below ground diversity. So we try to describe the soil microbial communities also in relation to the different companion plants, and also with regards to different management strategies we apply in these berry orchards. The third one, we try to demonstrate some new pest control strategies for important pests in berry orchards. So they are probably not really aware by the farmers, so we try to get this into practice. And the fourth one is, of course, if by all these management strategies, the major aim is to have a good berry yield and also good berry quality. So the fourth work package tries to evaluate all these management strategies on berry yield and quality. So during the first 18 months, so if you just continue with the slide, please. So in the first half of our project, we achieved, of course, some results. Or in the first work package, the major aim in the first year of the project was to establish experimental plots in our different partner countries. So we have experimental fields planted with different berries, mainly strawberries and raspberries. In Denmark, there are also gooseberries and elderberries in an experimental field. So we have experimental fields in Germany, Denmark, Poland, and Romania. And we include different companion plant elements in these experimental fields. So both flower strips, as you see on the right picture in the back, also some companion plants, some trap plants, some flower islands, some cover crops, so different companion plants. And if you because this is actually really missing even in organic berry orchards so far, so you have mainly a bare ground and your berry crop. So we try to show how to include companion plants in these different cropping systems, and we have for that we have established these plots, and we use these plots to assess the diversity of selected pest insects, but also of predators and parasitoids, so of natural antagonists. Can we attract certain insects with these companion plants? Can we pull certain pest insects out of the crops with, for example, trap plants planted at the sites? So these are trials which were initially started last year and which are now have been continued over this season in 23 in these established plots. And we are also tracking the movement of insects, in particular of beneficial insects between these companion plants and the crop plant. So is it really of benefit to plant a companion plant close to a crop plant, or how big can the distance be so that some beneficial insects move from the companion plants to the actual crop and do their job there, so predate or parasitize certain pest insects. So this is the first work package. In the second work package, we try to sample the soil microbial community. So in all these experimental plots, but also in other plots, we continuously sample soil samples and send this to our partners. This is done by our German partner in northern Germany and also in Poland and Romania. They also have their partner institutions there. So we have agreed on a common soil sampling strategy, and this is something which is now subsequently done. So over the season, analyze the soil microbial community to see if there is a change over time in these experimental plots in relation to these cover crops, for example, and these companion plants. How do they change the microbial community? And the Polish partner also is working on a technique for applying some liquid organic products, including some beneficial organisms to the root zone of strawberries. And you see some kind of prototype of this technology in this picture at the right side. And they are currently testing this under field conditions. Next slide, please. So here you just have some impression of these, so as an example in work package 2, sampling of soil microbial communities, chemical analysis of soil. We work with some compost in composting organic matters to also increase or enrich certain microbial communities, and also, as I mentioned, with this new technique to apply some beneficial microbes to these berry crops with the overall aim to increase their resilience. Next slide, please. So in work package 3, as I mentioned briefly, we try to raise the awareness for some innovative pest control strategies. And one is the use of insect pathogenic nematodes, which you can apply to the soil and which will, and also against other insects. So the Moroccan partner actually uses this to control the spotted wing Drosophila, which is an invasive pest in Europe, but also in Morocco, in Northern African countries. So this is one aspect to show how can we use these nematodes, what they need have certain requirements for temperature and moisture. How can we combine that with berries? So this is one thing. In the second technique, which has been tested in other projects before, but which is not really used in practice. And for example, in Germany, in fact, it is currently not registered to be used in berry production, is the use of so-called flying doctors, which are actually bumblebees. And these bumblebees, they are used to disseminate a fungal antagonist to berry flowers. And this is some preventive measurement against gray mold botrytis, which you see in one of these pictures, also tested by the Moroccan partner. So we have first experience with this technique in this field season this year. But one hurdle is really the registration process. So this technique is registered, for example, in the Netherlands and in Belgium, but not in Germany and in our partner countries. So there is a bit of a hurdle in getting this into practice. And in the fourth work package, as I mentioned, also continuously over the project period, we measure berry yield and quality physical characteristics, sensory evaluation, because in the end, the grower has to like the berries. They have to be of high quality. We have to have a good yield to ensure also the economic aspect of berry growing. So this is also something which is continuously done over the project period. Next slide, please. We have as another work package, and this is one of the important aspects of the core organic call, is the project dissemination. So we started right in the first year to give awareness to growers and stakeholders on this project. So here are just some examples from a workshop and field days which were organized by the Polish partner, and a similar thing which were organized by the Romanian partner. And we have also a project, a short video on the project website showing one of these field days where these innovative, or just to show growers how to incorporate, for example, companion plants, or what things they have to take care of in doing so. So next one, please. And it's not only the growers and stakeholders, but of course it's also the scientific community. So we have all partners have in this first half of the project have actively participated in different national and international conferences, both with poster presentations and also with some selected talks. So we were not only in the national, so in our partner countries, but also in other countries which are not partners, like Spain, Italy, France, Belgium, Netherlands. We were actively participating in international conferences and discussing and showing our project. Next slides, please. So we were asked also for the next steps. So currently, I mean, we are still in the season 23, so we are still working on these experiments. So it's just actually our first or second field season we have. So it's a bit too early to really publish scientifically, statistically significant results. So we have to collect these results from this year. And this is actually a focus from all partners, just because we are in the middle of our project and trying to continue with these collecting results. All partners have in the second half focus on increasing the project dissemination. So you have seen that there are already some field days and workshops, but we want now that the experimental plots are well established, we want to spread this over the next year in all partner countries and really raise the awareness for companion plants, for example, to be incorporated in this cropping systems. And then the different partners have applied or are in the process of applying for different national funds where we can use either the methods we have now tested or the experimental fields which are established, or certain aspects of ResBerry which will be continued in certain following up projects. So this is also something that the different partners are actively involved currently. And the Romanian partner, they have participated in an event for the call for cluster 6 calls, or they will participate in that actually next week. So there is also some activity going on with regards to a European project to continue ResBerry. Okay, so that's it from my side. I think we have the Q&A session afterwards.
Yes, thank you so much, Annette. We will move on to the next project presentation, and then if you have any questions for Annette, then post them in the chat, and then we'll have a joint Q&A session after the presentation from Michael. I would now like to invite Michael to give his presentation on the SCOOP project.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michał Krzyżaniak, and I work at University of Warmia and Mazury in Olsztyn. I'm from Poland, and I would like to present our project SCOOP. SCOOP, can I have a next slide, please? It's the short name of developing intercropping systems with camelina to increase the yield and quality parameters of local underutilized crops. Next slide, please. So you can see SCOOP consortium here. University of Warmia and Mazury is project coordinator. We have also SME from Poland, so 2 partners from Poland. One is university, the second one is number 6, is Biosfera, which is SME that works on seeds production, cleaning, and trade. The second partner and the fourth partner are from Italy. So we have University of Bologna and also Association of Organic Farmers from Italy, IAP. The third partner is from Turkey, so one only. This is Central Research Institute of Field Crops from Turkey, and we have one partner from number 5 from Plovdiv Agricultural University from Bulgaria. Can I have the next slide, please? So we have many specific objectives. So the main aim of the project is to develop intercropping systems with camelina and other underutilized crops. We have specific objectives. One of them was to establishing of local living clubs in each country to choose the best companion crops to be intercropped with camelina under different climatic conditions. And also to collaborate with farmers and other stakeholders regarding their needs. Another, of course, aim was to develop high-performing intercropping systems with camelina and other companion crops for organic farming, and also to quantify environmental benefits related to adoption of these intercropping systems. Also to assess below ground and above ground biodiversity, and to control pest diseases and weeds, or to assess them, and also biodiversity. Another aim was to set up post-harvesting technology and processing, maybe protocols as well, because this is quite challenging to harvest together camelina, which is a very, very small seed, with other companion crops. So this is one of the aims as well. And also to analyze the quality of different species seeds, camelina in soil cropping, and also camelina and other companion crops quality is important, and we also would like to, and we are assessing this. Another aim was to assess energy and economic and environmental intercropping systems with life cycle assessment and energy and environment economic assessment, and of course dissemination of our results. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, next slide, please. So we have work packages. I will talk about these packages later. So we have 5 packages: one for living clubs, one for field trials, the next one, the third one, for post-harvesting processing and seed quality, 4 for integrated sustainability assessment, and 5 for communication and dissemination. Next slide, please. So the first package was dedicated to living clubs, and we organized living clubs in each partner country to collaborate with stakeholders like farmers, advisors, also people from organizations from agricultural sector, and to decide what species should be cultivated with camelina as a companion crop. So we did it for every country, according to needs of farmers and other stakeholders. Next slide, please. In work package 2, what we do, so we test different intercropping system in small field trials and large field trials, and we already have some results regarding small scale field trials. So in different countries we cultivated camelina in different intercropping systems. We just already have data from second harvest, but when we talk about the first reporting period, we have, of course, we present the data for till month 18. So we can say that at this moment we found that intercropping camelina with other crops is quite challenging. We have usually yield reduction in most cases, but in some cases the results are promising, like for lentil camelina lentil intercropping in Italy. Can I have another slide, please? Next slide, yes. And in Turkey, there is also a camelina plus fungric intercropping, which is gave satisfied yield. In Bulgaria, one of local varieties shows good yielding, with also a sole crop and intercropping. And the biggest yield advantage was found for P. camelina intercropping. And next slide, please. And regarding Poland, we found that that usually intercropping showed big yield reduction, especially for when camelina was intercropped with spelt. However, we also found that this intercropping spelt with camelina gave the highest yield, and it was also chosen as a intercropping system for large scale field trials. So basically what we do now, after the first year of the small field trials, we decide, for example, in some cases like in Poland and Italy, to slightly change densities and test these crops again in the growing season that just have finished. So next slide, please.
Michal,
yes.
I'm very sorry to interrupt. I'm just mindful of time. So if you would be able to move on to your...
I will go briefly through the slides. So
thank you so much.
Fields, you can see that they were established now in all countries. Next slide, please. We measured in all countries above and below ground biodiversity. So next slide, please. As you can see here as well, some photos from Bulgaria regarding insects. Next slide, please. Soil analysis in each country. Next slide. And also post-harvesting processes. We tested seeds from all intercropping systems from every country. Next slide, please. And we just finished one of separation protocols for cleaning seeds in Poland. Next slide, please. We established a protocol for methodology for life cycle assessment. Next slide, please. And of course, communication and dissemination. So we, in each country, we performed these activities. We had 11 oral presentations, presented 3 posters, and had 4 articles in newsletters in Italy. And we also established a web page, and we had till April this year more than 2,000 page views. Next slide, please. And thank you for your attention. If you have more questions later, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much. As I mentioned previously, we will share the slides so you can all go back and see more detail. So I would like to open up for questions. If you have anything, just raise your hand or put it in the chat. I can see we have a question for Annette from Mark. Mark, do you want to turn on your microphone and ask your question?
Well, otherwise I can just maybe directly respond to it. So the question is whether there are also organic solutions considered for the control of the spotted wing Drosophila suzukii, which is actually very severe pest in particular in berry crops. So this is one aspect which the Moroccan partner is focusing on, this use of entomopathogenic nematodes, which you could probably spray during certain periods on the plants. And so they are currently working in lab trials in the laboratory to test different strains of these nematodes, different species. How do they infect which stage, developmental stage of Drosophila suzukii? So this is one aspect of this innovative pest control strategies. But of course, also by incorporating companion plants. So if you think about flower strips, for example, we in Germany have currently a project on control of Drosophila suzukii with parasitoids. So we release 2 species of parasitoids. This is another project. This is not ResBerry, but it's a nice link, because these parasitoids also need flower sources for their establishment in the berry crops. This is not part of our other project, but we could immediately see that there is a link to ResBerry, because by including flower strips, you provide parasitoids with nectar, for example, so they stay where they should stay, where they should do their job. So we have an immediate link to a national funded project here. So yeah, this is considered in the project.
Thank you, Annette. Is there any other questions? You can also just switch on your mic and ask questions to either Scoop or ResBerry.
Maybe I can pose a question to Michael, because I haven't put it in the chat, but is it already practiced in the partners country to have an intercropping of different herbal plants, medicinal plants, or are they usually grown in monoculture? So what do you think about or how likely is it that your project results will really be incorporated in practice?
It's a good question. Yes, of course, intercropping is used in different countries for different crops, but I think not too many with camelina. So this is, I think, challenging for us, since previous results from literature and our results shows that it's quite difficult to intercrop this species with other crops. So I think it could be possible, but what we have to find is right species and also right density, because in 3 years we have now, I think, around in Poland, for example, 4 different intercropping species and also 2 densities. And in the first year we found that the yield reduction was quite big. So this year we tried to manipulate and change the intercropping density. So I think this is the main challenge. So finding the right species and density, and also species that will be cultivated, and farmers will would like to cultivate these species as well.
And maybe just what about the harvest technology?
Yeah. This
So
is
do you have
this
to
is also, we have to harvest everything together, and after that separate this. So this is also a challenge. Of course, if farmers possess or will send the seeds to a bigger company that cleans seeds, it's maybe not so difficult, but for a small organic farmer, it can be a challenge, especially before cleaning, how to store the seeds, or do this clean immediately if it's possible, or just to dry everything, or clean it. So this is the challenge, and this also requires more workforce and time than separate harvesting.
Thank you. I think we will move on to the next two project presentations. So now we would like to hear from Diversilience. Osil, you here?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Yes, so I will present the Diversilience project. The long name is Diversifying Organic Crop Production to Increase Resilience. So these are the partners. We are from 7 different countries. So I am from Norway, from the Norwegian University of Life Sciences. And from Norway, we have also Norwegian Center for Organic Agriculture, Norwegian Institute of Bioeconomy Research, NIBIO, and Graminor, which is a breeding company. And then from Italy, we have CREA and 2 breeding companies, ResBerry and AKIS. From Denmark, we have an organic breeder, Agrologica. From Finland, University of Helsinki and the Luke Natural Resources Institute. And then I'm very sorry, I have misspelled. It's supposed to be Slovenia and not Slovakia. We have the Agricultural Institute of Slovenia and Futurlea from Romania, and then Maritza Vegetable Crop Research Institute from Bulgaria. Okay, and the goal of Diversilience is to contribute to more robust, sustainable, and resource-efficient organic systems by exploiting crop diversity at 3 levels. And these 3 levels are symbolized with the 3 circles in our logo, and also come up in the 3 first work packages. So number 1 is germplasm enhancement for adaptation and resilience. So in that work package, we look at variation within a species and find genotypes that are suitable under organic agriculture or in certain stress conditions. In work package 2, we move up to a bit higher level, and there we look at how we can exploit heterogeneous material in crop production. So very many crops, they are bred as inbred lines, where all plants in the field are actually genetic copies of each other. For example, wheat. But here we try to see how we can exploit using mixtures of genotypes instead. Okay, and then in work package 3, we look at intercropping between different species, a little bit like you heard about in the previous project. Yes, then we have 2 work packages for communication dissemination and for project management. So you can, yes, this is an overview of some of the results we have so far. Of course, we are working with field experiments, and most of our results will not be ready until the end of next growing season. But we do have a lot of data so far, especially from work package 1, phenotypic data on agronomic performance of different genetic materials under organic conditions and in the face of various common stresses. So, for example, for lucerne, we are doing some experiments to study adaptation to northern conditions. Lucerne is not grown very much in the Nordic countries yet. Yes, we are looking at wheat and resistance to common bunt, which is a very serious problem in organic farming of wheat. We are looking at buckwheat, adaptation to northern conditions, organic intercropping. White lupin, again, adaptation to organic conditions. Common bean, here we also look at drought and disease resistance. We work with runner bean, soybean, cowpea, and also maize. So we work with a diversity of different species and genetic materials, and we characterize variation in traits that are important for resilience, particularly under organic cultivation. And from the first work package, we also identified some genetic material that we then use further in the other work packages. For example, for some of these species, we identify certain plant types that are then used and tested in the 2 species mixtures in work package 3. So, for example, of the soybean and cowpea, we have selected certain genotypes among a large collection that will be tested further in intercropping. Okay, and then from work package 1, we have also identified some genetic factors that are involved in resistance to certain stresses. For example, genes encoding resistance factors towards common bunt in wheat. And also we have, through proteomic studies, identified certain proteins that appear to play a role in drought resistance. Yes. And then we have the Danish breeder has, during this project, gotten the approval for 2 populations of so-called organic heterogeneous material. I'm sorry, I wasn't quite finished. Maria Gertuba and popcorn, which are then not single genotypes, but more a population of different genotypes. This when we use populations, the varieties become a bit more robust to variation in climate and also towards diseases. Yes, and finally, we have done some selections of the materials that will be used further in organic plant breeding. And I list some of those species there. Okay, then you can move on. So project dissemination, we have had quite a lot. I think the most important channel so far has been open field days that we have organized in all countries. We have also had several oral presentations at various events directed towards the public, students, farming community, and scientific community. And so far we have some scientific publications, and of course we expect more of that as we get more of the results coming in. And for the future, next slide, I thought we were supposed to say something about what we would do after the project was finished, and we don't have any concrete applications or anything, but we are eager to continue our research and collaboration on species diversity and genetic diversity in agriculture, on intercropping, and on legumes. And we find all these different aspects very important for the future sustainable food production, where we utilize ecological mechanisms to provide stable and high-yielding crops and healthy diets. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Åtil. if you have any questions, again, just feel free to post them in the chat, and then we'll have a joint Q&A session afterwards. Also feel free to answer in the chat if anyone has specific questions to Diversilience. Now I would like to welcome Steve Milan, who will tell us about Roam Free. Steve, please.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me, Mine?
Yes, we hear you.
And my camera, is that on or?
It's on, yes.
Okay.
We see and hear you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll just proceed. The first slide. Yes, my name is Steve Milan. Well, that's a sort of a first name. Tamsborg is after my surname. And we're dealing with a project on robust animals and sustainable mixed free-range systems. And these are just similar to the other projects. I think we started 1st of November 21 and will go on 22, 23, and 24. And partners are University of Copenhagen in the clinical studies here in Copenhagen. We also have a partner from CREA, David from Italy. We're also represented by the NORSØK, Norwegian Center for Organic Agriculture, and I think they have two other partners or institutions involved. One called NIBIO, I think it's something with farm economics, and then then there's another called Oralis, which is more dealing with social sciences in relation to agriculture. So they are sort of three partners in one. Then we have Aarhus University that we collaborate a lot with, and we use some of their research facilities because in Denmark the funding was relatively limited, so we had to link up with some of the activities of Anne-Grethe Kongsted in Aarhus University. And then we have some new players in this. This are two veterinary faculties. One is a veterinary faculty from Slovenia, from Ljubljana, where Marina Trkulja is involved, and she's dealing with swine diseases. And we have Marina Spinu, who is in Cluj in Romania, working with infectious diseases in general. We're really happy to have these two institutions on board. As you can see on the right side, you can see what this is something that is one of the things we're working with is a combination of trees. In this case, it's willow and pigs, outdoor pigs. Next slide, please. So the idea behind this project was that we were discussing when we started what was the most interesting thing, and we think that one of the biggest challenges in the livestock or organic livestock farming is to deal with the pigs. And for that reason, we had an overall objective to investigate how we could make mixed free-range production systems that improve animal robustness and also look into sustainability and biodiversity. So the focus point was sort of the pig farming, organic pig farming, either combined with other kinds of livestock or with, for example, tree production, as I just showed you. So some of the advantages of such a system would be that we think it better complies with consumer expectations, that you have this principle of natural living. We also have, we know from some studies that as a reduced need for antibiotics, it lowers, of course, the capital for stables. It may also decrease the carbon footprint and also may have some environmental benefits in relation to, for example, biodiversity or perhaps also carbon sequestration. The disadvantages are some of the ones that you are dealing with is diseases. When you have animals outside or in combination, you have other challenges with regards to biosecurity, for example, African swine fever, as we do have with some of the partners. We have the parasite issues, and in general, we have welfare issues related to feed availability in general and how to look after the animals. Next slide, please. So we set up a project like this. You see the logo on the top where you have the pigs and you have also the woods. So the first one was that we were going to, a work package was to develop a common protocol and perform welfare assessment of pigs and other livestock in such a mixed free-range system. That's mainly work package 1. I'll get back to what we did in the specific countries. Then we had a smaller work package dealing with preventive effects of special or specific crop species or management procedures. This was mainly in relation to parasites, but also other issues. And then on top of these on-farm studies, we have sort of an overarching work package that looked into these aspects of biodiversity and sustainability of such systems. So that's more a systems approach we had in work package 3. So that included biodiversity, where we focused on the insects. We had economic and environmental performance by life cycle analysis. And then, of course, the overall end result should be to develop strategies for improved use of free-range areas. And lastly, dissemination. So that was the setup. And the next slide, please. Yes, and just very 3 small brief slides on the results so far. We had in Norway, we included Norsuk included 2 farms where they did detailed studies, and they are focusing on pig production in relation to tree production. So they are running pigs in conifer forests. So that means that's pine trees and spruce. In Denmark, we were linking up with some projects that is ongoing where we have either willow trees or poplar trees. And this is one example, as you can see here. In Slovenia, they had they had 1 farm in a mountainous areas where they combined pigs with sheep production, and another one in the lowlands where they were looking for having pigs in a forest area. Italy focused more on different kinds of livestock together with pigs, whereas in Romania, and that was sort of the same in Romania. I have to add that they don't have, as far as I understand, they do not have certified organic pigs farms at all in Romania. So what we're looking is sort of more traditional mixed farming systems. So, but that has been very interesting also to look into. So what I've just to show you a few results that this is actually from Denmark, where we have both follow these 2 farms that I mentioned, but as a longitudinal over 2 years. But we also have a factorial study, which is illustrated here. And you can see you have the lower left corner, you can see we have 3 rows of poplar trees in each of the pens. And then we are looking at where do the animals actually defecate, how do they use the area with the trees, and what are the possible implications for example, parasites. And that's shown on the right side, where you see on the left, you see that number of eggs outside the poplar area. On the right side, you see another area outside the poplar. And in the center, you can see the tall column here indicates that we actually have much more egg deposition and many more eggs when we have the poplar trees. And that points to one aspect that we are looking into, of course, whether there's increased survival of, for example, parasites when you combine trees with these paddocks. Next slide, please.
Yeah,
and then we've done these.
To interrupt, but just be mindful of the time.
Yeah, it's I'll finish now. It's just 2 more slides. And the last one is second last is interviews with farmers, where we looked into the benefits and challenges, and we also looked into overall what are the prospects on this. And this is quite interesting, and it's still ongoing to work on these interviews. Next slide. And this is the last slide where we looked at the biodiversity, where we looked at insects roaming in these areas. And we have had 2 or 3 traps located in each of the countries, close to where the pigs are and more distant to where the pigs are. And here you can just see some preliminary results. There's certainly a difference in the 2-winged insects. And lastly, next slide, please. We've looked at the project dissemination. We've set up the websites, and we've had participated in lots of scientific meetings so far. We have not been so active on posting videos on the websites, but we have just had our midterm meeting, and that's one of the focus areas to increase that. And the last slide is that we're thinking of probably replacing our final workshop, which was supposed to be a joint one, but I think we'll replace it with national stakeholder meetings instead of that. And then we have started discussing on whether we could take some of these aspects up in the new programs, like the European Partnership of Animal Health and Welfare. And I think that all except Romania may also be included, but all the other partners are actually represented in this partnership. There's also a new partnership coming up on antimicrobial resistance, which is also interesting, transmission between animals or between livestock in the same system. And the last, no, I think this is the last one. Yes, sorry.
Thank you so much, Stig. We now open for questions. So I can see that Stefano has a question. Stefano, do you want to switch on your mic and ask the question so everyone can hear?
Yes, thank you very much. Hope you hear me well. And the question is for Herschel. I've heard that they are working with heterogeneous organic materials, producing and facilitating the production of heterogeneous organic materials. So I would like to know if there is the need to notify to the national authorities, competent authorities, the release of these heterogeneous materials, and if there are guidelines they might have followed to this notification.
Yes, I don't know too much about this, but I know that there is a framework that has been established relatively recently for how to register and get such materials approved. And so far they have been approved in Denmark at least. So regarding specific guidelines, I'm not able to, I know there are some, and I could put you in contact with Anders Borgen, the Danish organic breeder who has produced this, if you like, because he knows.
Thank you so much. I would like to be in contact on this point, and maybe we can exchange experiences and also documents to see which are the difference and to make a gap analysis between the different procedures put in place in the different countries. I can provide you with the Italian experience as well.
Good, we can be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much both. Are there any other questions for either Åshild or Stig? Just feel free to open your microphone and ask the question.
I would have a question for Stig. It was very interesting to see the research results that you've highlighted, and the last part was the effects or the impact on the biodiversity. Could you please explain a little bit more why are you tracking the biodiversity impacts, and what possible implications of that you are expecting if the farmers could adopt some new routines, or what would be the aspect that could be from the advisory point of view result of your research? And maybe if I think throughout all other presentations in a different manner we have heard that the focus on biodiversity is existing. Could you learn anything from other presentations that in a different manner have a similar ambition? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ivana. Well, I think, I'm not an expert on this, but I think by sort of default, I think that the biodiversity is a good thing. So I think it's something that is beneficial to the farms, and for that reason we wanted to see whether we could actually increase the biodiversity or the diversity of, for example, insects. But I must say that this is cross-cutting from the 5 different places, and I think that we will have some problems in interpreting the results, but we decided to focus on this, and instead of, because we did also was thinking of looking into plants, but we thought that that would be too diverse. So yes, it's an indicator, and I think it's very interesting to look at as well. But I can't really say that we have an hypothesis other than we expected to have a higher biodiversity if you combine this, if you have these free roaming animals. That's all I can say, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for these 2 presentations? No? Otherwise, I think I will pass on to Ivana. I think we might need to skip our little break, so we kind of stick with the times on the agenda.
I think we can maybe consider to have only 2 or 3 minutes if somebody needs to stretch or whatever. And then we will take a few minutes from the last bit where I could have my presentation a little bit shorter. And I'm already very pleased to hear that Stig has mentioned some of the partnerships that I didn't plan in my presentation, but that partners have already have a knowledge of. So let's meet up again at 11:15 or just 11, a little bit before. I hope, Gabriella, that is fine for your presentation, because we have put it a little bit later. It will not affect the time, but I think it's good that we just refresh a little bit and have the last part, that is research seminar with the All Organic project, but it's also about the Horizon Europe, which we usually have a session that we usually have with our funders and stakeholder partners. So this time is a combined thematic event. So let's have just a refreshment moment, and see you at 11:15, not later. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana.
Thank you, Mine, for the excellent work in the first part of the session. Thank you. Thank you both to you and Frederick. Welcome back. This was a very short break, but perhaps good to refresh, having usually very long video meetings. Our agenda for the second part of the meeting consists of Gabriella Nagy's presentation. Gabriella, you will introduce yourself, but I would like to mention that actually this is a very interesting collaboration. Core Organic is a part of a research project in this new phase. So we are part of Organic Targets for EU project. This is a classical research project that investigates scenarios how the target of 25% organic farmland in EU can be reached. And Core Organic is one of the work packages in this project. That's a different setting for us, mainly because the European Commission didn't continue with the IRANET instrument, but it gives us a new collaborative possibilities and new knowledge possibilities. This is why we have invited Gabriella to present some of the research work that is done within the project. We have also Ambra De Simone with us from IFOAM, that is a coordinator of organic targets for EU, and we really think it's a new phase and it's a new landmark for collaboration between funders and researchers. I give floor back to Gabriella.
Ivana?
I think,
So sorry
yes.
to interrupt, but I think we actually have the project presentation, All Organic, first.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mina, for the reminder. We will finish with the research seminar with the last presentation that is by Stefano Canali. And why did we put Stefano's presentation in the second part is also because we will have discussion on partnerships. So this is already a hint towards the agroecology partnership, the living labs aspect. So both Gabriella's and Stefano's presentation will introduce us in the Horizon Europe part. Thank you, Mina, for reminding me. Sorry, Stefano, for presenting first. Gabriella, floor is yours. You know that we have a limited time, so if you want to have some questions, please keep your presentation to 7 or 8 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, I will do. Thank you, Ivana, no problem. So hope you hear me well. We can move to the next slide, please. Yes, the All Organic involves 5 core organic countries, 7 partners from 2 continents, as we have Algeria, so also colleagues from Northern Africa are involved. In total, more than 25 scientists, and the cost of the project is about 1 million euro, considering both funding and co-funding. Next one, please. Yeah, the main project idea is to promote, to build a functional network of experiences to promote and to support the development of a diversified organic food system from the field to the table. And we are considering diversification in accordance to 4, beg your pardon, main dimensions: the temporal diversification, the spatial diversification, the genetic diversification, and also the diversification of practices and techniques. As Ivana mentioned, we are working in a living lab environment according to the living lab approach. So used centered system where co-research and co-innovation are implemented in real life communities and settings. Our living labs we have established in the project countries are characterized by a biophysical dimension, the fields, the farms, the facilities where the diversification experiences are implemented, are carried out, are tested, and a sociocultural dimension that is composed of the community of actors and the stakeholders that are interested and that participate to the co-research and co-innovation processes around the diversification concept. Next slide. Yeah, we have worked the first year to establish and to promote the activity of the different living labs. And we have identified together with the living lab actors the research and innovation needs and priorities regarding biodiversification. And then we have started to implement the different diversification strategies. In the table in the right hand of this slide, you have the example of the biophysical dimension of the Italian living lab and how the different diversification strategies are implemented in the different farms and together with the actors that are involved. Then we started to measure the impact, to study, to monitor, to assess the results and to assess the impact of the diversification processes according to different tools, different measurements, multi-criteria analysis. Here in this slide, I show you the example of a big merged questionnaire we are using to interview the different actors. The questionnaire itself has been developed in accordance to a collaborative approach among the different work packages, all the scientists involved in the different work packages. Next, please. Yeah, and we are simultaneously, according to our dissemination plan, we are carrying out the dissemination activity internally and externally with a wide range of tools, in addition to the website and to the different prints. We also press release. We also use the field visits, videos, leaflets, handbooks, and we are starting producing also scientific papers with the first results we are achieving. Next, please. Yeah, and of course, as next step, we will continue our activities in studying, monitoring, assessing the diversification trajectories that are now in place in the different living labs. But we are also thinking to the legacy and to the impact and to the legacy of all organic. For example, the all organic project was mentioned as one of the projects able to support the early stage of agroecology partnership implementation. Some of the partners of the all organic projects are already involved in the agroecology partnership, in particular in VP7 and VP8 that are related to the living labs and to the coordination of a European network of agroecology living labs. And our ambition is also to have our living labs, the living labs that we have set up in the different countries, ready to be offered for the future partnership transnational calls. The knowledge that we have developed, we are developing in all organic, allowed some of the partners to apply to the EcoReady open call for living labs. The deadline is the end of the month, and we do hope that we will succeed, of course. Regarding the public-private partnership, we have assisted, helped facilitate some actors in the Italian living lab, for example, to notify to the Ministry of Agriculture a new organic heterogeneous material for durum wheat. And in the next month, we will continue to facilitate the work of these actors, because they are interested in developing, exploiting the value chains based on these heterogeneous material for seed production, direct seed production, and for bread production as well. This is my last slide, I guess, and thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Stefano. Very informative, both about your present research results, also about the next steps. I didn't see any questions in the chat. Does anybody have a spontaneous question, clarification point? I have a question for you regarding the agroecology partnership, because that will be something we will touch upon later. How do you see the connection with the future partnership? Have you had the possibility to familiarize yourself how it will work? Is it nationally available? Is this information available nationally for you? And what is the call, the eco-ready call for living labs? If you can also say a few words about it, maybe other colleagues could benefit from it. Thank you. There is a question for Stig in chat, if you would like to answer it, or we can see it after Stefano's response. Thank you.
Yeah, regarding the first question, well, I have to say that the agroecology partnership in Italy is quite well known, thanks to the dissemination activity that has been done by the Italian ministry that is directly involved. The research office of the Italian ministry is strongly involved in the partnership setup, and some of the Italian research institutions have had the opportunity to participate to the partnership. Also, some of the Italian regions are participating to the partnership. So we do think that the floor is well paved, and we have a good feeling about the potential impact of this partnership in the agroecology and organic landscape in Italy for sure, and likely in Europe. And regarding your second question, the eco-ready call, well, very interesting. It's very peculiar, because this is a call that has been launched by an Horizon 2020 project, and it is very applicative call. It is not a call for research, but is more a call for the implementation of innovations at local level. And so the rules that are very peculiar, but at the same time very challenging and very aspiring, I would say. And so this is, according to my opinion, something interesting and something that can be replicated somehow in different ways and different systems. I would consider it carefully. Now, I do hope that the all organic colleagues involved in this call will succeed, and then we will have more information in the next months, years, with the opportunity to really participate.
Thank you, Stefano. Thank you very much. I think with this, we will move on to Gabriella's presentation. Gabriella, warm welcome, and the floor is yours. You can present yourself and then go on with the research information as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ivana. So I'm a researcher from the Hungarian Organic Research Institute, holding a PhD in forestry and wildlife management and having a degree on international environmental protection policy. Before my actual position, I used to work on landscape level conflicts and climate mitigation measures such as habitat suitability modeling, socioeconomic modeling, and agroforestry on poplars and raspberries and strawberries. So welcome ResBerry project. As for now, as Ivana mentioned, I'm representing the Organic Targets for EU project. Next slide, please. The project is coordinated by IFOM and working with 18 partners. Next slide, please. The aim of this project is to reach the farm-to-fork strategies 25% is EU agricultural land under organic farming, and significantly increasing organic agriculture by 2030. Next slide, please. For this aim, we are running several sub-researches on each actor's level who are involved and assessing mainly barriers and leverages of the conversion. Next slide, please. And providing summaries to support, for example, to advisors, policymakers, farmer associations, and as for the specific presentation to the players of the agricultural knowledge and innovation system, as you know, mainly referred as AKIS. Next slide, please. Within the actual assessment, we analyzed AKIS for organic agriculture, organic aquaculture, and processors and retailers of these fields. Next slide, please. To assess this generally not well-researched subject so far, we collected several types of information from practice partners, from national representatives, and we provided a set of information. Next slide, please. Which concluded mainly country reports. Next slide, please. Qualitative and quantitative analysis based on data sort of facts collected from countries, collected from the EU. Next slide, please. A many set of policy assessments, how they are working, how they are reflected actually by the users, not only by the policy makers. Next slide, please. And we provided a set of assessments on how all these features are embedding into policies. Next slide, please. And drawn actor maps to show how the actual players of the sectors are interconnected and how they are referring to each other's importance, not only how they are really working together one by one. Next slide, please. And finally, we drawn similarities and differences of the focus countries. Next slide, please. And analyzed how they are related to each other's in the actual state of art. Next slide, please. As a result, we concluded that for the AKIS in organic agriculture has many strengths, which are very much the same in every country. It doesn't mean that each countries are on the same level. No, absolutely not. Each countries are having a very different kind of development stages, but in the meantime, the strengths and the weaknesses, topics and issues are very much similar. Of course, this doesn't mean that when we are analyzing how to come over the weaknesses, the same solutions can be used. No, of course not. As for example, in Austria and Denmark, we merely have to fine-tune the actual system. Meanwhile, in, for example, Hungary and Romania, we are dealing with structural, most basic, systematic conflicts. Nevertheless, The main strengths are lying in the actual network of the organic sector, how they are interrelated, and how they are able and willing to work together. Next slide, please. And as for the weaknesses, the same problems are occurring, starting from the most of governmental problem as how policies are set, how much they are consequently visioned and embed to each action plans, and how these action plans are providing funding mechanisms for each actors, and concluding back down to knowledge creation, to education, to advisory services, and how they are actually concluding to the actual farmers' knowledge reach potentials, and how the actual network is even so fragmented, although this is far much better than any other agricultural subsectors. We have to conclude this. Nevertheless, all actors have tasks to do so, and most importantly, should prepare a far more inclusive network and inclusive knowledge base for all actors. Next slide, please. For organic aquaculture, we have a very different potential right now and a very different state of art. As you know, organic aquaculture is a relatively new and small sector. And these two factors are the main importance in strengths and even so in weaknesses altogether. Due to the small sector, actually all actors know each other very well. So every kind of innovations, developments are easily transferred, but in the same time, of course, that means that, first of all, next slide, please. The basic research behind this sector is lacking a lot of very general and very basic information. Though, of course, the sector, as it is quite new, is just, if you may say, in a spin-off stage. But as this is a very innovative and extremely environmental friendly solution, the most important step forward to have a collective, well-visioned development path to ensure that actually the already set good targets to be reached in time, and as we can say, quite fast compared to other agriculture subsectors, development paths, just to ensure to our water bodies are be as protected as much possible. Next slide, please. As for the next steps for this assessment, as I said, this is just one little part of a very huge puzzle. This will embed to several other assessments and analyses, which are aiming to conclude scenarios for the countries and for the European Union, how to reach this 25% of land use. And we are analyzing what are the main barriers and how can we come over them. And of course, our actual message, I think that a good vision, a good set policy approach is a very important part to really reach this very ambitious target. So next slide, please. So thank you so much for your attention. And of course, we are very happy to answer any of your questions, and hopefully our publication will reach you very soon. You can have it on the website of the project and on IFOAM's social media channels. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gabriella. It's a hard part of the Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy. All the preconditions that are required, the policy preconditions, the knowledge preconditions that are required for national and regional mobilization towards these targets. So thank you for telling us about how the project is approaching this question, and also what research has been done. And we are happy to circulate among the partners here the report that you will be working on once you signalize that is ready. Any questions for Gabriella's presentation? I don't see them at the moment, but I think that we might have them together with my presentation, because it's in a similar direction. Horizon Europe should offer certain research possibilities towards the Green Deal targets. So I think I will share my screen with you. If you have followed in the chat, there is some interesting exchange going on about Roam Free project results, and I thank Stig and all the partners that have posed the question. Let me share the screen. Can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. As I mentioned, this is we have a tradition within the Core Organic Pledis every 3 months roughly to offer news from Horizon Europe, and I'm pleased to hear that actually research teams here have a very good national feedback, or at least what Stefano has already mentioned. So today we will have a snapshot of what is happening in the agroecology partnership, in sustainable food system partnership, which is called Future Foods, something about strategic research innovation agendas. So these are the documents that will be used for future calls, and every partnership develop individually this kind of document. They're stipulating the framework of the call. They're not saying precisely which topics. There is certain thematic areas, but the topics will again be decided by the funding agencies from a national or regional context, similarly like it was done in the IRANETs before. And then just some information about possible other calls. As a point of departure where you can find this information, I wanted to mention SCAR. It's a Standing Committee on Agricultural Research. This is a long-lasting body that has a representative of the member states involved and also stakeholder partners. And you can see here that there are certain thematic groups on agroecology, on AKIS, on food systems that we'll mention today, and this information that follows comes from this website, from this archive. So feel free to go back to it in your own time. Agroecology partnership, it's a, I think, very important development that proposed by European Commission in Horizon Europe period. The SRIA, so the Strategic Research Innovation Agenda, was developed in the context of SCAR Agroecology Working Group, and it includes teams for the future research calls, how the partnerships will be running. It's basically like a very large project or very large initiative, and there was an application for management of the partnership in April. And currently, there was a positive evaluation of this application, with current status that the grant agreement is negotiated, and it's expected to be finalized within this year, meaning that the partnership calls and the start of the partnership should be already in January or February next year. And there is a possibility that maybe there will be also earmarked funds that's also for other partnerships, but that's not confirmed. We will have to see how the calls will look like and what the funders will decide. Core teams, there are 4 core teams in the agroecology partnership. You can see redesigning of agroecosystems, redesigning of agroecology value chains, working on agroecology living labs and infrastructures. This was also already mentioned by Stefano, and there are a number of partners working on this kind of local innovation models, and then enablers of agroecology transition. How is organic research integrated in the SRIA? I wanted just to share with you one of the textual references that is very direct, where you can see on page 38 in SRIA that organic farmers are considered as pioneers in developing and adopting agroecological practices. So in this partnership will help to accomplish the objective, and it will be win-win both for agroecology and for organic farming. The partnership will build on the achievements of organic farming to drive the agroecology transition. This partnership will integrate research innovation activities benefiting the organic farming sector and is committed to support organic farming R&E as important driver of agroecology. This, I think, for a research community, it's really an important message. We need to work within the context that maybe within the core organic calls previously was more straightforward, working directly on organic. Of course, embracing agroecological practices was never a limitation. It was, on contrary, welcomed. But here, I think we have really the framework that is more open, where partners are invited to work in broader terms and apply the knowledge from the organic sector. I move on to the Future Foods Partnership. So the food system, sustainable food system partnership. Again, we have a SCAR strategic working group on this thematic area, and we have a SRIA that is developed in the similar way as for agroecology partnership. Also, the time frame is very similar. The first calls maybe will come slightly later because the scoping exercises for the future calls will be undertaken only after the grant agreement is signed. So that could be within this year, and then maybe by mid next year, the first calls could be implemented or could be launched. There is a food parts project where you have a link in the presentation that is supporting the preparation of the partnerships. In this context, both core organic teams and SAS food teams, my colleagues Nicola Hassan and Frank Hensgen, we are jointly working on preparation. This is why we have also invited colleagues from our joint call in 2019. So there is lots of integrated work, and you can see that this is directly from the content of SRIA. There are certain research areas that will be covered. So change the way we eat, change the way we process, supply food, change we connect in the food system, and change we govern the food system. And then the cross-cutting or interconnected areas that will also kind of filter what the future teams are. You can see them under this chapter 7. From SRIA directly, I wanted to highlight also how organic is included, and it is in a sense mentioned as a best practice, as an exemplary case that can be used when touching upon these themes. I think this is a very good possibility for the organic research community also to find a way and work in the context, in a broader context of the food systems. I think that I mean, I will not reread things, but you can see that the technological innovation should go hand in hand with organizational social innovations to reach sustainable outcomes. The organic sector might serve as an example. So I think this is very good. And I would like to ask if at this moment there are some questions, because then I have some last points, but maybe there are some questions, because this is lots of information. These partnerships belong to a cluster 6 on food in the work program of European Commission. This work program is published every 2 years, and we currently have one for 23 and 24 with a number of calls. These partnerships are not the only one. There are what colleagues were mentioning. There is a partnership on animal health and welfare. This partnership on various aspects of aquaculture, other few partnerships covering, and potentially also agriculture of data will be launched next year. So are there any questions that at the moment participants have, or contribution from your national regional context? I see that there is no anything in the chat, but maybe from the funders something. I think we have here David, we have Stefan, we have Nina from respectively German, French, and Norwegian funder. Do you have any contribution or anything that you would want to mention that could be relevant for the community here?
I could add one thing maybe, Ivana, if you want, on agriculture of data.
Yes, please.
I mean, yeah, you summarized the other two partnerships and the current status very well, so I have nothing to add there. Just a note on agriculture of data. It had no SCAR working group supporting it in the preparation, and it was all prepared in a rush at very short notice, and yeah, it wasn't so surprising that the proposal wasn't successful. But we expect the topic to be republished in the call 2024. That's the latest news we have. Niels Götke and Jesper Stendal from the Ministry of Agriculture in Denmark are continuing to work on a proposal. They are open to adding partners to the proposal, primarily funders, state research organizations, people like that. So if there's interest there, if you have any ideas how agriculture of data could contribute better to organic farming, what needs does organic farming have in terms of more and better data, or more and better precision technologies that can contribute to organic farming, to enhancing organic farming in Europe. I'm sure they would be open to those kind of contributions to the agriculture of data partnership. Yeah, so just something to bear in mind if people think they might foresee a role for themselves in that partnership.
Thank you. Thank you very much, David. I see that Marco Della Rosa, our research colleague from University of Bologna, has also posted in the chat a note. Marco, would you like to share the news that you have written in the chat and give some of your experience with the partnerships?
Yeah, thank you, Ivana, for this presentation. So we are involved in we were before in the core organic in ecoberries project, and we are coordinating the Midsus Fruit project on organic food production. but we are very involved in processing or more sustainable technologies, also for startups, also in seafood technologies here in this part of Italy. And so we are very interested to be to have a part also in the processing topics related to some proposals. So I don't know exactly now what are the steps or really the state of the art of some proposal in the next topics and the next proposals in next calls. But so I'm not very aware about that. But just to point out that this type of competencies are always very, for our viewpoint, are very important to have more sustainability of the organic value chain.
Marco, I think you should certainly follow what the Sustainable Food System Partnership will offer when the calls come. We will not anymore work as a core organic calls. We don't have that opportunity. So, but we are happy to help in any connecting point. So thank you for expressing your interest and for contributing. Just a clarification with David, whom we should maybe address. Is it colleagues from BLE that would, with Johannes Pfeiffer, that would be a relevant persons if we have some proposals regarding the organic integration of organic in the agriculture of data?
Yeah, Johannes Pfeiffer at BLE would be a good person to speak to, or directly the coordination team of Niels Gutke in Denmark, or Jesper Stendal, also in Denmark. Because it's a partnership, with the new partnerships, I mean, it's open to all sorts of partners. It's in comparison to the AeroNets, it's not just funders and funding agencies. It's open to research organizations as well, just including universities, including various high schools and so on. It is a little bit more difficult for, say, non-state funded research bodies. You can still able to participate, but because there's this whole need to bring in an in-kind contribution, it's automatically less attractive for third level institutions. But there's a possibility there as well. So, but I think for most universities and so on, it's preferable to wait for the calls to emerge. But for others, it might be interesting to play an active part in the partnership if you can manage the in-kind thing. But beyond the in-kind, ideas, I think, will always be welcome. How more data contribute to more organic farming.
Thank you very much. Stefano, you have a contribution before I show my last slides, please.
Yes, thank you, Ivana. Thank you for your very clear and comprehensive pictures about the different partnerships. As you know, I know better the agroecology partnership and the limited, in a limited extent, the other ones. However, what I noticed is that the boundaries of the different partnerships may let's say, lead to some potential overlaps or potential synergies. And this is, I guess, a key aspect and a critical aspect as well for the future. And I guess that during the partnership deployment and the different goals, particular attention should be paid in the, let's say, in the boundaries areas where two or more partnerships have connection or might have connection. And I guess that the organic sector that is interdisciplinary since the very beginning can play a relevant role in guiding and providing inputs to guarantee these synergies. And this is something that I guess the organic policymaker and project managers should consider with particular attention.
Thank you, Stefano. I think this is like a concluding note for what we want to say today, because indeed we do not have a partnership on organics, but we are a very cross-cutting team across number of partnerships. And we wanted to highlight to our research community that this is how we will be working in the future. There is no more safety zone, only organic sector, but I think organic sector and the knowledge from organic sector is mature sufficiently to be implementing across different partnerships. And please let us know if you need certain support. We will continue as a core organic network to provide information, thankfully to Organic Targets for You project that is hosting us until 2026. So no calls directly will be launched, but you can see on the screen, Core Organic is also participating in a Green Era Hub initiative together with the SAS Food and other 15 different networks that were from the ERANET or JPI family. And the Green Era Hub will also launch 3 calls, where the current call that was closed on the 7th of September had the scope open both for organic and conventional food and farming approaches. So please consider also checking annually what the Green Era Hub can offer. With this, I think, yes, just the next steps. We invite you to understand better the partnerships, and if these are the relevant instruments for your research, consider also the SRIA documents that will be guiding. Consider to join the national mirror groups. These are kind of a small partnerships on the national level. So with your fellow colleagues from the ministries or research institutions on a national, regional level, you can discuss how the partnerships are evolving and the calls there. And welcome to remain in contact with the Core Organic. You can find the links both for the 3rd call in the co-fund and for the present Core Organic Pleiades. Thank you for your kind cooperation. On behalf of the ICROFS Core Organic team, yes, I'm very pleased for all your contributions, and I thank to all the colleagues that have presented and contributed, and those that have posed the questions or that have just participated. We were at some point, I saw nearly 60 participants. So that's, yes, that's really a great opportunity to exchange. I see we have some comments in the chat. We will not be able to take them now. But I think that I see that Mark has posed also some links, and if there are comments that require answering, we will do that individually via email. Is there anybody that has something urgent that would like to share before we close? It's already 3 minutes past 12, but I like to open the floor if there is somebody who, you know, accumulated a wish to say something after the seminar today. I think everybody's fine. We often take a picture of at our 2nd hour. If you would like to turn on your camera, we'll take just a screenshot, and we use it sometimes in the reports or online, and it's good to see you. Very pleased for having everybody on board, and yes, thank you very much, and stay in touch with us. Thank you for the contribution. Take care.
Thank you.
All the best. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ivana. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Greetings. Thank you, Mark. Sorry that I couldn't go into detail about the comment that you posted.
I know it was good. It was good. Thank you.
See you see you soon in at our annual meeting in Brussels.
Yes, good. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.